Police chases are an essential part of any good action movie. But there are occasions when real life surpasses fiction, and what started as a simple call to order for a minor infraction ends up being a crazy escape that forces police officers to use all their resources to stop the offenders. Many of these pursuits often attract the media, which broadcast these incidents live, leaving us with truly impactful audio-visual pieces. And that's why, in this video, I'll show you 10 brutal police chases caught on camera. 10. The school bus. This surreal chase took place in Texas, United States in March 2018, when a 15-year-old boy decided it was a good idea to borrow a school bus belonging to a local church for a ride. This obviously caught the attention of citizens, as the bus was driving erratically without lights, so the police were quickly alerted to act. Once they arrived, they saw that indeed a pre-teen was swerving down the road with a school bus. The officers immediately ordered him to stop. However, the young man ignored such instructions and decided that a forward escape was the best option. As expected, his poor driving skills, especially in a vehicle of such characteristics, took its toll, even crashing into the median wall so hard that it opened the rear door of the bus. A few turns and road exits later, the bus ends up crashing into a police car, becoming immobilized on the shoulder, at which point they manage to arrest this crazy preteen. 9. The slow one. This surreal chase occurred in Texas, United States in May 2015, when a vehicle fled from an anti-narcotics checkpoint. Everything up to this point would be normal in a pursuit if it weren't for the fact that the driver starts to relax his pace to ridiculously low speeds. Moreover, for a time of more than 2 hours, in which the patrol cars followed him as if it were a procession, even coming to a stop on several occasions. Finally, the police get tired, so they send the SWAT team, who arrive like a bat out of hell and brutally ram him, making him lose control and crash into the median of the road. Even so, Joe still didn't lose his faith to escape and starts to desperately exit through the rear window. What he doesn't know is that behind him is a heavily armed SWAT team ready to take him down. Of course, Joe Gonzalez was arrested and taken away on a stretcher. In his car, there was a large quantity of narcotics. 8. The ghost motorcyclist. This is without a doubt one of the wildest and most exciting motorcycle chases that have been recorded on video for posterity. It happened in Brazil, and the reasons that initiated it are not well known. But what it makes clear is that on many occasions, reality surpasses fiction. And it's because the young man, like a professional rider, undertakes a rapid escape dodging cars, jumping curbs, making maneuvers to the limit, and even goes through alleys and climbs stairs. However, finally, seeing that none of this has managed to leave the agents behind, they decide to throw in the towel, a moment that the officers take advantage of to carry out his arrest. 7. The limousine. The police chase we can see in this video could be nothing more than that, just any police chase. However, the curious thing about the matter is that the pursued criminal decided at some point that a limousine was the ideal vehicle to escape from the police, and so he arranged it, driving at full speed with this long and not very agile vehicle, pushing it to the limit at all times. So much so that at one point he has trouble keeping his course in a straight line, and far from braking and surrendering, he begins to drive at full speed in reverse while exiting the highway. Surprisingly, the criminal's skill is quite good, although, well, not enough to escape. So he ends up crashing into a tree and the occupants end up being arrested. 6. The Joker Los Angeles, Long Beach, April 10th, 2009. Some officers receive a call at 6 in the morning that a woman is screaming. When they arrive, they find a 47-year-old woman in a Toyota Scion trying to ram them up to 3 times before beginning to flee. The curious thing about this chase is that the driver, far from taking the matter seriously, starts to taunt the agents by turning on the emergency lights, braking suddenly and making them believe she's going to stop, only to accelerate and try to escape. This reckless woman crosses lanes as if they didn't exist, goes off the road to make senseless U-turns, and even allows herself the luxury of getting out of the car, berating the police, getting back in, and continuing to berate while driving away with the window down. Luckily, at that moment, and taking advantage of a lapse, a patrol manages to catch up with her from behind and makes her spin 180 degrees. But even so, the fugitive doesn't stop at first, and in fact starts to flee at full speed on the highway until, in another crazy change of direction, she is hit by another patrol car and subsequently blocked. Finally, after mocking the police for 60 kilometers, the woman was arrested and brought to justice. 5. The ambulance. What began as a domestic dispute call in late February 2020 ended up being one of the most bizarre chases ever recorded on video. The subject in question was Mark Ibarocki, about 40 years old, who, after the arrival of the health services and seeing that he had aggressive behaviour, they decided to call the police. Mark seems to have felt threatened by the officers who arrived and thought of nothing better than to steal an ambulance to try to escape. At first, the police's attempts to stop him were in vain, and for more than an hour, this fugitive was running over everything in his path through some of the busiest streets in northeast Philadelphia. Finally, and thanks to a blown tyre, the vehicle stopped, at which point the agents took advantage to board the ambulance and arrest this middle-aged man in his underwear who thought it was a good idea to flee in an ambulance. Certainly, a flawless plan. 4. The trailer, Dallas, Texas, November 7th, 2001. The 42-year-old unemployed and homeless truck driver, Bernix Wilson, decides to steal a trailer from the parking lot of a fast food restaurant. The truck driver can't stop him, but luckily he had time to disconnect the air brakes of the trailer, which automatically activated the manual brakes to lock them. But Wilson cared little about this. He probably felt at that moment like the T-1000 in Terminator 2. Shortly after, this act wreaked havoc, as the wood carried by the truck started to burn due to the overheating of the brakes, which caused the tyres to burst, and, after Wilson's refusal to stop, the metal rims generated enough sparks to ignite it. The curious thing about all this is that Wilson seemed to be happy during the more than 90-minute chase throughout southern Dallas, so much so that he took the luxury of waving and honking. However, the chase ended shortly after, endangering a school bus full of children that he nearly ran over. At that moment, shooting at the truck was authorized, and the officers managed to stop him. Although it seems incredible, Wilson came out alive but was arrested and sentenced to 99 years in prison for this act. Although, well, it must also be said that he had several cases pending, such as one for using a stolen crane to steal another car. 3. The motorhome. This brutal chase that occurred in California, United States, began when a highway patrol saw a large motorhome committing some infractions. At that moment, the authorities ordered it to stop. What they didn't expect was that Julian Reinberg, about 50 years old, had bought the motorhome with a false identity and was trying to escape. Yuli didn't hesitate. She stepped on the accelerator pedal fully, driving through the streets at speeds of more than 100 kilometers per hour with her gigantic motorhome. In the vehicle were her and 2 Mastiff dogs, and in the course of the story, the inevitable happened, and the motorhome first impacted against a palm tree, brutally destroying the side panel as well as the front. But Julian had no intention of stopping and continued driving at high speeds. At one point, one of the Mastiffs that until now she had been carrying in her lap starts to get nervous and decides to jump through the broken front windshield. Luckily, nothing happens to it. The fugitive checks and, seeing that this is so, continues on her way. However, the second dog wants to follow the same fate as the first, but this time Julian is more attentive and contains it while driving. Not long after, the hardest accidents start to come. The first against a black car that is shocking, but the second is brutal, as it seems she is struggling with the dog, doesn't realise, and takes a curve like a straight line, ramming a parked car until the motorhome is pinned against the trees. But the thing doesn't end here, as Julian gets out of the motorhome with her dog and starts running. Although not for long, as when trying to jump the fence of a house, an officer manages to catch her while other colleagues start to come to arrest her. Julian Rainberg was finally sentenced to 9 years in prison for this crazy motorhome chase through the streets of California. 2. The Tank. It was 6:30 in the morning on May 17, 1995, when US Army veteran Sean Nelson drove his Chevrolet pickup to the California Army National Guard Armory and, after sneaking into the facility, got into several tanks until he managed to start one. At that moment, a guard saw him, but it was too late and Nelson was on his way. The tank, fortunately, had no armament. However, this mattered little for Sean and the 57-ton tank to go at a maximum speed of about 48 kilometers per hour, mowing down traffic signs, traffic lights, electric poles, fire hydrants, and up to 40 vehicles that were parked. Finally, the tank was immobilized, at which point several police officers quickly took advantage to climb on it, opened the hatch, and ordered Nelson to surrender. To this, Nelson apparently turned a deaf ear and continued trying to free the machine, so the police shot him on the spot, hitting him in the neck and dying sometime later in the hospital. 1. The bulldozer Marvin Mayer, 48, was a simple car muffler repairman at a shop in Granby, Colorado, who, after several disputes with the city council over legal issues with his business, in which he lost, decided to take justice into his own hands, and did so in a totally brutal way. By modifying a Komatsu D 355A excavator to be a virtually indestructible armoured machine. This machine was protected by steel plates up to 30 centimetres thick, video cameras connected to 2 monitors mounted on the dashboard, as well as a considerable amount of large caliber weaponry. On June 4, 2004, he came out of hiding with his armoured excavator and rammed everything in his path. In a few minutes, Marvin's metal behemoth had destroyed multiple buildings. All the while, the police were trying to stop him in every way possible, but neither explosives nor other high-tonnage machines could stop the beast Marvin had created. After 2 hours of confrontations and absolute chaos, the bulldozer had demolished 13 structures completely, but at the same time was seriously damaged by the multiple explosives of the police. Finally, the machine got stuck and, after more than $7 million in damages, the battle ended. The police used explosives as well as a blowtorch to open the tank to discover that Marvin had taken his own life with a gunshot, being, despite the destruction he caused, the only fatal victim of this tragic day.